This week on 5 Brilliant Things, it's Peter Serafinowicz. I had to practice that. Here's how the show was.
They asked me to provide the exertion noises for if you played as a male character, right? So all the when you die, which is often in these games, when I pick it up and have a little go, it's like, and I die. It's like me, right? It's like a weird way to be immortalized, right? It's one of my proudest achievements.
Peter, nice to meet you. How's things?
Nice to meet you too. Yeah, good. Actually, pretty great. Yeah, feeling positive and happy, and yeah, it's nice to kind of check in with yourself and think, how am I feeling? And yeah, I am.
Good. Well, the answer you gave would suggest this is going to be quite an introspective episode. I don't know why, but I said, how are you? And you really answered the question properly rather than go, I'm fine.
I'm a good guest.
Yeah, I think you're going to be a good guest.
Thanks, man.
And the weather is awful, so the fact that you've come in with a sunny disposition is fantastic.
It's like, you know, I would disagree. I think it's raining. I wouldn't necessarily say that means it's awful. I think the rain's cool, you know.
Nice. What I think about the rain, when I find myself, as I did, I was walking to the train station and then walking to the tube. It's a real, it turns me into a child again.
Yeah.
Because it's so rare as an adult that you have to kind of just walk in the rain. Whereas as a kid, you know, walking to the bus to go to school, it was just every day, it felt like. And
Yeah.
suddenly you've got wet hair and you're like, oh, I'm 11 again.
Yeah. God, I mean,
You couldn't hail a cab when you were 11. Do you know what I mean? It's like if it was raining, that was it. You're like, well, I'm getting wet.
Yeah, you couldn't like text them and say, listen, I'm running 15 late, you know, it's like, no. And that whole trudging to school and just, you know, I kind of hated school. It was like, to me, it was like going to prison every day, you know?
Oh, right.
Yeah, and so I'm really glad I'm not in school anymore. I mean, you know, now I'm an adult. Now I'm an adult.
That's your book. That's your book, isn't it?
I sort of think that although there's all kinds of stresses that come with being grown up, and you know, there's all the responsibilities and having kids and blah blah blah, like all that stuff is so stressful. But I really honestly think that I was more stressed about stuff when I was a kid, and like I just all the time I just used to think, I can't wait till I don't have to go to school again.
Yeah.
Just the day to day of it, you know. And I never did any homework, and I was always, I mean, the amount of energy I spent coming up with excuses as to why I hadn't done my homework, avoiding it. You know, I could have, you know, I could have like planned that better. I could have done my homework and had plenty of energy to spare for other things. But, you know.
What were you doing then?
I just wanted to make jokes all the time,
Right,
you know.
yeah.
And, I mean, make jokes, do impersonations of the teachers, just fuck around, really. Am I allowed to say, like, fuck around?
Yeah, of course you
and stuff?
can, yeah. Do you know has anyone ever said this, but your accent is so similar to Harry Styles if he smoked 20 a day?
Is it really?
It really is, yeah.
Where's he from now?
I think he's Cheshire.
Is he?
So, but it's very interesting. You've got because I saw him recently, just like randomly at a hotel, and we had a chat, and your voice is so similar.
Wow, how funny!
Yeah,
wow.
It's funny. It's there's I don't know what it's one of those accents. It's, you know, that you just can't quite. Are you very good at any accent?
I mean, I would say I'm pretty good at having to go all of them.
I'm pretty good, but I find there's certain ones like sort of Norwich or Leicester.
Yeah.
There's certain pockets of the UK.
So you're a mimic then?
I'm not so bad. I can listen and hear it.
That's cool, right? Okay.
I used to find that so fascinating where like all of my family are very good at art. So my mum could see an apple and draw an apple.
Right.
And I couldn't for the life of me. I was like, how are you able to do that? And they would be the same as like you could hear a Scottish bloke when you were 8 and then go, speak in a Scottish accent. It's such a
Yeah.
funny thing, but that kind of, to bring it back to what you were talking about, but that mimicry, that kind of, when you would see a teacher do a certain thing and then you do it and you
Yeah.
realize all the power and the ease with
Yeah.
which you can do it. It's
Yeah.
so much fun.
It is
How
fun,
can
yeah.
homework possibly compete
Yeah,
with you
yeah.
being able to do an impression of Mr. Clark? Do you know what I mean?
I didn't know that about you. Actually, that's really cool that you've got a mimicry.
I think most sort of comics do, really, that you can sort of take somebody, I think.
Yeah.
But
And
yeah,
once you get that the little key phrase,
Yeah.
and then everything kind of grows from there. I mean, what you were saying about like Norwich and Leicester and stuff, it's like I'm not like good like technically like that. I'm kind of, I sort of vibe it more, and I don't know whether my impression of someone wherever they're from is like super duper accurate, but like, I kind of get
the feel of it, yeah.
the feel of it, and that's kind of,
Let's talk about brilliant things. What is your first brilliant thing?
Well, it's Alan Watts.
The sort of Buddhist philosopher?
That's right. Yeah. Do you know him?
Not deeply, but I'm aware of him.
Okay.
But if I'm getting it right, he basically sort of cut up Buddhism for the West. Is that fair?
Yeah, that's it. That's good. Yeah,
Okay,
it's
fine.
kind of funky way of saying
Phew,
it. Yeah. Phew. It's I suppose he would describe it as, I mean, he's dead now, but like, he would describe it as
Is
like,
he though?
Alan.
Yeah.
He's I mean, I talk about him in the present tense, right? Because like I listen to him every night. So he would say he's credited with bringing Zen Buddhism to the West and like Eastern religion. Like when he so he was born in England, and his dad was a rector, and he was, as a boy, he was really interested in religion, and he then joined the priesthood when he left school, and did that for about a year, and he was like, he just didn't get on with it, and then went off for the next 20-30 years around Asia and India, researching this like Eastern religion and philosophy, and so he learned all about these Eastern philosophies and lived in monasteries and just collected all this knowledge, and then he moved to America and started, for the rest of his life, this was in like the 40s, 50s, he did lectures all around America, basically telling people about his version of Buddhism and what he'd learned, and what was brilliant about him. One of the brilliant things about him was that he was quite modern in that he bought a reel-to-reel tape recorder and recorded all of his lectures. So there's hundreds of hours of his lectures now on YouTube. So you can hear him talk, and you're listening to this guy talking from sometimes from 70 years ago, and it just does not sound like you're listening to a guy from the past. It's so kind of present, and he's just, I mean, I'm goosebumping just thinking about him, because when I discovered him, I think people had mentioned him all the way through my life and said, do you know this guy, Alan Watts? And two of my heroes who I got to work with quite a bit, Matt Stone and Trey Parker.
Yeah.
I think the first ever animation they did was they animated one of his like a part of one of his lectures, right?
Wow.
And
Big man, would you say?
That's so.
but it's like, it's like Alan Watts he's really funny, right? He's so funny, he's so charming, and he's got the most beautiful voice, and he's got this sort of he's from you know, he's brought up in England and like, you know, he has that kind of voice, but he chose to not come. I don't really know why he did this, but like he chose not to come back to England and settled in America. So he's got this sort of, you know, occasionally he'll say like, when you go to the kitchen and turn on the faucet, you know, like he's like adopted that, those America, he felt like more comfortable there, you know, and
Shall I play a little bit in so people can hear what he sounds like? I can just play
Yeah.
It's a great idea.
Yeah, go on, yeah.
If you talk all the time, you'll never hear what anybody else has to say. Therefore, all you'll have to talk about is your own conversation. The same is true for people who think all the time.
You're right. That isn't from the 20s or the 70s. That's from now. But it's like human research rather than historical research.
Yeah, it like the only time you realize that it's from the past is when he references like Kennedy being the president or something like that, you know.
So if you, like you say, you listen to this like most nights, what are you trying to get from it? Do you feel like a Buddhist?
I do, yeah, I do. And I suppose I feel like, so when I was in school, I really, I was brought up Catholic. I was in Liverpool, and like, it was a very kind of dogmatic school that we went to, and it was very, you know, I remember being like 5 years old and sitting cross-legged in the hall while we had an assembly, and the head teacher telling us all that if we were naughty, we were going to go to hell. And this description of hell, it was like, it was terrifying, right? As a kid. And anyway, all that kind of stuff just made me very jaded about kind of spirituality and stuff. And then it was only a few years ago that I listened to one of these lectures, and it was like, oh my God, this is the only thing that's ever made any sense to me. And it's so completely with Alan Watts, and like then since like there's a couple of other people I listen to, it's so devoid of mumbo jumbo. It's like it's just so much plain talking, common sense, and you know, there's a guy, so Alan Watts died, Wattsy as I call him, he died in 1973, and he said, it makes me quite emotional to say this, but his last words on his deathbed were, if only there was a way I could continue doing this without my body. And he did, you know, he did. And so there's a guy called Michael Singer who, he's someone who's still alive, and he's from Florida. When he was really young, he was about 20, he opened this, he's like an amazing guy. He opened this temple. It's called the Temple of the Universe in Florida. And he's very much, his teachings are very, very similar to what Alan Watts teaches. And I remember talking about Alan Watts to a guy who drove me from the airport to a hotel in Canada a couple of years ago. And we got talking, I was telling him about Alan Watts, and he said, okay, well, look, I haven't listened to him, but I listened to this guy, Michael Singer. And I was thinking, yeah, he's not going to be as good as my Alan Watts, is he, though, you know? And I listened to him, and he's like, oh, my God, he's fantastic. He's wonderful. He does a talk every day. It's like an hour.
Wow.
And he's, you know, he's a really interesting character, like, as well as like being this kind of guru, I suppose you'd call him. He's also he also had this tech company, and it was like a coder, and like had this massively successful software company, but like in parallel to doing this, to, you know, his Temple of the Universe, which again sounds like a kind of cult, and it really is. It's not that at all. And he's such a common sense guy, you know, and he's somebody who, so like for instance, the weather today, when you kind of get pissed off that it's raining and or it's too hot, right? You're hot because that thing in the sky, that star, right, is 93 million miles away, but you're close enough to it to feel its heat, right? That thing over there is 93 million miles away. It's just mind-blowing, right? It's like every moment that you have is like, it's just appreciating the joy of every single moment that unfolds in front of you, you know?
So did you feel like, were you searching for meaning before you found these?
Yeah, I think, yeah, definitely. Also, I think I was, I mean, I still am. I'm sort of trying not to be, but like very much a person in my own head a lot of the time and thinking. And this is the thing that all these guys like say is that your thoughts are not you. It's like these thoughts that come in always trying to solve problems or create problems for you to solve. It's like there are no problems. You just got to live and just, you know, and you know, also it's like the meaning of, you know, it's like what I'm coming to understand is the meaning of everything is there's no meaning to anything. It's just, the meaning is just to live life and enjoy life and to just live every moment. There's no kind of meaning to it.
I love it. What is your next brilliant thing?
So it's Nuts magazine.
Well, do you know what I was thinking? I was thinking as you were saying that about YouTube, I was thinking, I hope you have YouTube with no ads, because it must be so difficult to listen to that and then suddenly Radion gets your whites whiter or something like that. It must
Yeah, I
leak out.
do, and I think it's you know, it actually makes me think that I want to change
Change it.
I want to change, so I put eggs at the end, and I love eggs, but I suppose YouTube is my I want to switch it out for YouTube because I feel that, you know, we're in this time where it's, you know, it's justifiably so that we are living in this time when we've got like this whole online thing, and people like kind of looking at their phones all the time, and you know how it kind of makes you, you know, it just makes you kind of live differently. You got social media that's like this kind of crude facsimile of life that people equate with actual life, and it's so like it's you know, it's so crude and basic, and but I have to say, it's like, I think, you know, while we're decrying all this, we forget like how it benefits us as well. So like without YouTube, I wouldn't have discovered Alan Watts like I did, right? I would have had to have sought out these clips or like sent off for like records or what, I don't know, whatever, you know, but it's like the algorithm, the YouTube algorithm can, you know, it's like it's allowed me to access all these hundreds of hours of Alan Watts, and like, so that's, you know, that's one thing. But like, I suppose also I did my sketch show. It's nearly, next year will be like 20 years ago that I did this sketch show, the Peter Serafinowicz show on BBC Two. And how we came to make that was, it was put a little video together, a little sketch that we put together, put out on YouTube, which was then, it had only been not even a year since it, I think it was like whatever, 2005 that it came out. And then this was like 2006. And it meant for the first time, you could send a link to somebody on an email, they could click it, and within a second, they could watch this video. And it was like, that was just revolutionary. I think people forget, like, if you're a creative person, to get people to watch your stuff, you know, I think it's something that we take for granted. And I discovered as well, there was this video game composer who, when I was 15, I was kind of obsessed with this soundtrack he'd done for this game. His name's Tim Follin, and he did stuff with his brother Jeff Follin, who and I found this out through YouTube, who died about I think about 3 years ago. But they made music for the started out on the Spectrum, and then the Commodore 64, and the Amiga, and then the Nintendo, and I knew some of his songs from when I was a teenager. He did the soundtrack on the Commodore Amiga. That I didn't have one of these computers. I don't know. Are you a computer person at all?
Do you know, weirdly, my dad would never get us consoles, so he got us a Commodore Amiga 500 plus.
Really?
So I had a Commodore Amiga. But so I'm intrigued to know what the game is.
So the game was called Bionic Commando, and it was and this characterized the kind of games that they did soundtracks for, because they were often kind of.
What was Bionic Commando?
It was like a platformer,
Yeah.
and the kind of gimmick was that you had this grappling hook that you could swing on ledges and pull yourself up, and it was the game was fine, right? And all the games that they did soundtracks for, they were fine. They were just these, these average kind of games, but they just over delivered on every single soundtrack that they made, and they're unbelievable. And Tim was he's like a nutcase, man. He was with the ZX Spectrum. I don't know if you remember the Spectrum, but the games had sound, but the Spectrum didn't really have. It had a buzzer that it was monophonic, and it sounded just awful. And what Tim did was when he composed soundtracks for it, he managed to hack the sound chip to make it play chords and beats, right? It's crazy. And he did all this without any kind of music software like we have now. It's this was all typing in hexadecimal code in an office above a travel agent in Warrington when he was 16.
Yeah.
And so through YouTube, I got to discover all of the music that he and his brother had done, and to find out about him. And eventually last year, I got in touch with him and emailed him. We got on the phone, and instantly we totally clicked, right? And
But see, here's what's really interesting. So you mentioned the algorithm there, and I was just thinking, what I would argue is not it is, but there's two things happening. So that guy who was 16 that was above travel agents in Warrington, that is a human, who with a purpose, a mad purpose to make chords through this thing. Alan Watts is a human that just, I would imagine, with no kind of end goal in aim. I'm going to travel for 20 years and I'm going to find. I'm a searcher.
Yeah.
And they find these things, they make these things, they multiply, whether it's songs or kind of lectures or whatever, and eventually it ends up on this thing called YouTube. But I don't think it's the algorithm. I think that's you're clearly searching them.
I guess.
But do you know what I mean? And then once you've made that decision to go, I want to find this music, I want to find this lecture.
Yeah.
It gives you that in abundance.
I guess.
But the reason why I'm saying this, I wonder, do we, as people that know the world before YouTube, is it better for us because we are able to go through our old lives and go, I wonder what that is, versus children that are bombarded because they haven't had the experience pre-YouTube?
Yeah.
Discuss.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I suppose first of all that, thinking of YouTube just as not algorithmically, but just as a search engine, right? Where I know what I want to see. I suppose that's what I was talking about. That enabled me to see this and hear this wealth of content that I would never have experienced otherwise. This kind of leads on to my next thing.
Perfect. What is it?
Which is segues. No, it's actually not on the list, it's like it's number 4 on the list, but you know, who cares? So this band, the OCs, who I've discovered, I discovered them. They're a kind of, I guess you call them a kind of punk band. I think they've been going for like 15, maybe 20 years. Their music, it spans a lot of different genres, but it's within that kind of, it's like kind of punk, garage rock, psychedelia.
Should we hear a bit? Then
Yeah.
Crank it.
Yeah.
Let's have a little snippet
Yeah.
of the OCs.
Yeah.
This is the dream.
Oh, I like it. So yeah, I feel that kind of high energy punk,
Yeah.
self-made.
Yeah. And like they're,
I see you pogoing to it in your room.
so I saw them, I rather heard them on a little Instagram video for a record shop in East London that just popped up on my feed. I was like, whoa, who's this band, right? It's like, they're called the OCs. They've changed their name slightly over the years. Don't really know why. And sometimes they spell "the" with 2 E's, which
Yes.
I kind of find quite. It just makes me cringe a little bit. I don't really know. There are like a handful of bands that have done that, and it always kind of. And I really like them as well, but like I don't get this double E the. But anyway,
I read that it's John Dwyer's the main guy.
Yeah.
He kept changing the name on purpose just to fuck with the industry.
Right,
So that they
okay.
wouldn't ever get a handle on it.
Well, then
Because of the punk thing.
that kind of makes you like him more, though, eh?
I guess it
And,
does, right?
is it presumably have they mucked around with C's and SEES? Yeah, of course.
Yeah,
Well,
and
there
the
you go.
letters and etc. And so that's kind of cool, right? And so it was like, so I saw this little Instagram clip. It was like 20 seconds of one of their songs, like a really very kind of speed punk, angry kind of sounding song. And so I went on Spotify, and again, it's like the same kind of algorithm, whatever. Like, I got up there, like, you know, I guess the 20 most popular songs, and like I went through them all. I was like, wow, I like each one of these. Really, like,
God, it's a feeling, isn't it? What is there a better feeling than that when you discover a band and then you go through their back catalogue, having never heard of them, and there's like 15 years of,
oh my god,
it's the best, isn't it?
it's great. I mean, you know, I still feel like that with, you know, a big Bowie fan, and I think there's lots of like, there are still some tracks of Bowie that I've never heard that I'm kind of keeping as little surprises for myself, you know. And like I think that a big one for that kind of feeling is The Fall, because they just did so many albums. Now, if you like The Fall, right?
The Containers.
Yeah. No, The Fall. No, the.
But you hear a lot of in that clip of the OCs, you can hear a bit of The Fall as well.
Yeah, I guess,
Clang,
you know.
clang, 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 clang.
Yeah, but it's like, I remember Robert Popper described, he kind of got me into The Fall, and he said they've got the most misanthropic riffs you've ever heard. And like, it's what I always think of when I think of them. But but the OCs, right? So they're like, you know, they're like, you know, they've released albums in the last couple of years, and like they're not kids, right? They're like, I don't know how old that John Dwyer is. Must be. Can you see?
He is 51.
Oh, there you go.
51, right?
There you go.
Okay, so he's making this music, but in this style, and it's kind of changes from album to album, but it's definitely, they're all kind of like what you'd say are like retro styles of music. And it's like when I was a kid, slightly jumping around here, but like when I was a kid, I was in school in like the kind of late 80s, and it was kind of fashionable for some of the cooler kids, you know, like I guess I was in a sort of way. It was like I was into sort of retro music, and I got into Steely Dan, who were like, they're still like one of my all-time favorite bands. And that, you know, to be into this music that was from like 10, 15 years earlier, it seemed like ancient, you know. It seemed unlike other people who were into like I guess like Led Zeppelin, and, you know, Led Zeppelin t-shirts, the Ramones, you know, it was all a kind of similar sort of thing. And it's like now that's still what kids are, you know, that's still what kids going to university, right? And they're all like, yeah, I'm into, you know, you know, I don't know, the Ramones. I mean, you know, the, you know, punk bands, The Cure, you know, or, you know, it feels like Fleetwood Mac Rumors, right? Like, you just hear that on the radio, or like just around, you hear songs from that. Like, dude, that album's ancient, man. It's like 50 years old.
Yeah.
And when I was a kid, it's like me like being like a kid in like the 80s. I'm walking around and everyone's into you know what I mean?
How much is that dog?
You know, it's like, it's crazy that how like, so it feels like music has developed and developed, and like it's kind of developed all these genres that are so kind of established. In a way, I love it. It's like the OCs, like exploring this, you know, making more stuff in that genre than ever than was made at the time in the genre by the bands of the time, and putting their own spin on it, you know. But it is also like, I want to hear kind of some new.
It's funny though, isn't it? You wonder whether we are due another sort of punk movement or something like that, where it's a rejection of you know, TikTok and Instagram and something that is very live and very present and very young and shit kicky. Do you know what I mean?
And pisses us off, right?
Yes.
You know, it's like,
that's a very good point. There isn't like where you listen to a song that angers you as an old man. It doesn't feel like it's happened for a while.
I feel like I want to hear, like the last time I heard like a new genre of music, I remember hearing the first time I heard like jungle coming out of a car, right? Like this car went past and it was playing this like 140 BPM like jungle track. And, you know, I was still kind of young at the time. I was in my like 20s, and like I remember sort of feeling a bit of that old man kind of shaking my head and like thinking, well, that's gone too far. That's not music, right? Within about 2 days, like that was all I was listening to, you know. You know, it was so kind of it was so thrilling to have that, like this new, dude, we've never heard anything like this, you know. I did hear this one thing, like there's this kind of genre of Scouse rap. I don't know whether you've heard of this, and like there are these kind of Scouse rappers, right? SD Kid is like the he's like the main one, but there are all these like kids like doing, you know, because everyone can. It's also become like democratized in a way, like that people just record stuff. They don't have to get a record deal and get like money to record an album in a studio. They can do it at home on their computer, and this music that was like, I heard it was on Radio 1 one night in my local corner shop, and this sound that this like loop that sounded like a car alarm or something, and it was really kind of atonal, and some fucking guy just fucking rapping over the top of it. It was fucking cool, mate. But it's still like, you hear it and it's still like recognizable as like music and a genre of music, and like it's not like, what is this? You know, like how you imagine people when rock and roll first came out, you know, and Bill Haley and the Comets causing riots in cinemas, like, well, a rock town too. You know what I mean? Like this guy, like inciting violence. You know, this kind of tubby guy.
You
looks
can't
like
imagine
deputy head.
But that era of kind of burning records and all that, and just it's so Yeah, maybe those days are gone. But just the very fact that the Beatles, that their albums
Who?
were being burnt, yeah, exactly. But they were being burnt. Isn't that crazy? Just to think, one of
Yeah.
the most beloved bands of all time.
Yeah,
were
God, I'd forgotten
at
about
one
that,
stage they were satanic. And even when you watch those interviews of John Lennon, he's like, I wasn't saying we were bigger than God. I'm just saying we're comparable.
And he's he's saying, he's like, look, you can tell that he's trying to be sensible, and he's trying to, but you can hear in his voice, there's a real fear, a real threat from people. He doesn't, as much as he liked to fuck around, he wasn't fucking around then. He's like fucking, what I mean?
Wild, man. What is your next brilliant thing?
Okay, right. Next one is cryptic crosswords.
Whoop, whoop.
Yeah. So you're a fan of cryptic crosswords?
Yes.
So this is the second time it's been mentioned on the podcast. Dave Gorman.
Oh, really? Okay, right.
Dave, as well as being a fantastic stand-up comedian, he also writes cryptic crosswords for the Times, I think.
Times Independent as well.
Yeah.
He's
So there you go.
Whoa.
So there you go.
Okay.
So what do you love about them?
I suppose with being a comedian and like, it's like I've never been like a stand-up comedian, right? I've never, I mean, I had a little stint of it and I was terrible at it. And and one thing I learned from it was that puns don't go down well in a live situation.
Well, Tim Vine would suggest otherwise, but
he's masterful, right?
Yeah. But you're right. He hits that sweet spot of kind of cringe and excellence, and it all blends together until it's just this relentless stream.
The magic trick with Tim is that you don't realise how good his performance is.
Sure.
That's it.
Those
Yeah.
jokes will be
His
nothing without
delivery.
his delivery.
Yeah. And I don't know. I never really got. And by the time I was getting these gigs that were way beyond my station because I was kind of sort of known, and I had a certain degree of like fame, I guess, in the comedy world, and like, I found myself on bills with like Stuart Lee and Richard Herring and John Shuttleworth, right, and like these like real kind of giants, right, and like but I did this. I had this act called Jazz and Jokes. Jazz and jokes, jokes and jazz. I hope you like jokes and I hope you like jazz. If you don't like jokes or you don't like jazz, I'm gonna look like a bit of a spaz. Right, and that was my opening song, and I did it like a couple of times with the horn section.
Oh, yeah,
right.
yeah,
So
yeah.
they were my backing band, and then they would, after we did that opening, they would do this and kind of noodle along with my jokes, and then. It was basically, I would tell a joke and then it was like a kind of one-liner or sort of wordplay kind of thing, and if the audience laughed, they would carry on playing, or they would always do like a little bit of but if the audience kind of groaned, or then they would start like kind of playing out of tune, and like, so it was a bit like playing Rock Band or Guitar Hero, right? So I had to get the audience back on my side, and I mean, this was funny, right? At the end, what I would do is I would say, right, at the end of these jokes, I would do, okay, now, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to sing now, and I really love to sing, and I've got a great voice, but I've got a very limited range of only one note. I'll just warn you now. Anyway, I'm going to finish with this song, and I hope you enjoy it. New York, New York, right? So the band, the horn section, they would all play New York, New York, but on the same note. So it's like bum bum ba da dum bum bum ba da dum bum bum ba da dum bum. Start spreading the news. Dun 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 dun. I'm leaving today. Right? It's like, it's quite hard to do, right? We practice it a little bit, and it's really annoying because like, it's just on the same note, but like you're having the, the very last bit of it where it gets all dramatic. If I can make it there, I'll make it. It's up to you, New York, right? And so that was kind of funny. But anyway, going back to like cryptic crosswords, is like the way that they are constructed is a lot like how a joke is constructed. They're kind of like it's like the ultimate for me. It's like the ultimate like word play. You know, it's like really playing with words and the different meanings of words and the construction. If the compiler's any good, there's not a single wasted word, right? And it makes total sense. And each piece is a part of the puzzle. That the clue wouldn't be a clue without any of the words. It has to be those words. And but the guy who's like the absolute master of these was this guy, Arakaria, who's like the top Guardian crossword compiler. And he died like 10, 15 years ago. And he was this guy, I think he lived somewhere kind of remote. I think he was a rector as well, right? And as well as Alan Watts, just to go back to, And he, his crosswords, man, I mean, Jesus, wow. He did these alphabetical jigsaw crosswords. And at the top of the puzzle, it said, solve the clues and put them in the grid wherever they will fit, right? Oh my God, goosebumps again, right? So the clues, it's like, I remember seeing my first one and I thought, this is like boss level crosswords now, right? I thought, okay, I'm not even going to attempt, in fact, I used to get disappointed if I saw there was an Arakaria jigsaw puzzle crossword in the thing, and I wouldn't attempt it. I would just think no. And then it was like, I think it was my dad. It was like, we don't have a lot in common, but like this is one thing that we do have in common. Like we tried to figure it out. Like it can't be that difficult, right? And we realized, first of all, so the clues are labeled, there's no numbers to them, they're labeled A to Z, right? And we realized, first of all, that the answer begins with the letter of the clue, right? Which is a clue. And then you've got like the length of it tells you the length of the word. So there are only certain amount of 8-letter words, 10-letter words, whatever. So, so you can start to kind of fill out a bit of the grid, and it's really satisfying to do. But then the crazy thing about it, right, is that, what I was saying about like there are no extraneous words in these clues. And like, that was the same for these jigsaw clues. And I realized that these clues were in rhyming couplets and they were all, it was like a poem. It was all in like a meter, and dude, this guy's brain, good grief.
Yeah.
Good grief.
It's like sort of intellectual sadism, isn't
bit,
it?
yeah.
But it's so not only are you solving a puzzle, you're also in awe of the godlike creator.
Yeah, the devilish creator.
Yeah.
I think you could enjoy them. I think what you need is a doula.
Right.
Yeah. So Peter's dad introduced you. There was a woman that introduced me to them, and you do it as a social activity.
Right.
They're fun to do on your own, but they're great when you do it with someone else.
Yeah.
And if someone who knows what they're doing introduces it to you, then you get your first one. It feels so good.
Yeah.
And then it becomes a really good social thing to do over a pint or whatever. It's a great fun.
Yeah, I hear that. Yeah, maybe it's they're very daunting.
Yeah.
They are.
If you're not, and it's a bit like Japanese food. The first time you have it, you need someone to hold your hand.
Yeah.
In my case, it was Ross Noble.
Wow.
Yeah,
okay.
Pretty extraordinary. Yeah.
Wow.
I was in New Zealand, and I was like, oh man, it's raw fish. I'm 20. I can't be. And he was like, oh, I'll be fine. And he sort of. So I need.
Wow.
I
Love
need a
him.
doula. Yeah, he's the best. But
Yeah.
But maybe that's what I'm kind of. I wasn't a particularly academic guy, so I sort of have those in a corner of like academia and knowledge, and I'm like, ugh.
But then it's like, okay.
I'm worried I'd be thick and wouldn't be able to do them. That's what.
So this leads nicely onto my fifth thing, which is Elden Ring, which is a video game by this Japanese company called From Software. And it's like the latest one in the Dark Souls series of games. And the first game I played from this series was Dark Souls, and it's like a third person kind of fantasy action game on the surface. The first game, you're in this, you're like this knight who wakes up in this castle dungeon. You've got a crappy sword and you don't know what to do. You don't know what to do, and you kind of explore this thing, and then suddenly there are kind of these kind of zombie skeleton things who are trying to kill you, and you get killed, right? And then you wake up and you're in the same spot again. He's like, okay. You find a shield, so like they're shooting arrows at you, and they're kind of slow, right? And then you think, okay, this is not so bad. You got the shield, got the sword, kill these kind of skeleton knight things, and you think, okay, this is not so bad, And then there's a bit where you jump down off a ledge, and there's this giant demon with like a massive kind of club thing. It's about like 50 feet tall. And you just think, no. It's like how I felt with cryptic crosswords before I could do them. It's like, I'm just not good enough at these kind of games. This is for like Japanese, like hardcore, gamers who play it competitively, and they're just like, no, I can't do it, right? Then my friend told me, and he said, look, you got to get past that. Once you get past that big demon thing, it's really easy to kill him. You just got to kind of run round the back. He's kind of slow and he kind of lumbering, and he does this big, and it's like, you just time it. So you go behind his back. He can't hit you. He's slow. He turns around. You kind of hit him a few times, kind of run away, hit him a few times, and then suddenly you killed him. Then this game, it's so cool. It's like he said, then the real game begins. And you go, then that leads to another bit out of this dungeon, and you walk up this path, and there's a bird's nest on this path. At the end of this path is like a cliff. It's like a precipice overhanging this thing. And it's like, you get to this bird's nest, and then it says, there's a prompt that comes up, and it says, curl up like a ball. Press A. And it's like, all right, I'll curl up like a ball. You curl up like a ball. And this massive crow that is like a giant 20-foot tall crow that has been perched on top, that you haven't noticed, been perched on top of the dungeon, flies down and picks you up. It like thinks you're one of its eggs. And you fly over this sea to this other land, and then it drops you in this place, right? And then you wake up, and then it's like, okay, you kind of know what you're doing now, right? And now I've got to kind of fight these kind of skeleton things, and it's like, okay, cool. And it's like, it gets a bit harder, right? And from this point, there are about like 4 or 5 different routes that you can go. And there's one that like is like just a bit harder than what you've experienced in the dungeon, but it's still quite hard. And then there are others where you think, okay, that's a little bit hard for me. I'm going to go down here, which is this graveyard. It's like, okay, nice graveyard. It's a little bit spooky, but then suddenly there are these skeletons, like out of Jason and the Argonauts, kind of sort of inspired by those. And they're kind of these are quite sort of tasty, these skeletons, and like they kind of, but you think, okay, I can just about kill a couple of them, turn around, and there's a massive skeleton that comes and just absolutely batters you, right? And so you think, okay, I'll go up the hill and go up that, the slightly more difficult one than the tutorial level, kind of get through that, and then as you go up there, you kind of find like a better sword, and you come across a merchant, and you realize you've been collecting these souls, which are like the currency of the game, with all the enemies that you've killed. And it allows you to purchase a better sword and like better shield and like some nice armor. And that's the way the game develops. And it's like, and once that clicks, it's like, oh my God, this is the game I've been waiting for my whole life, because it's like, it teaches you that no obstacle is insurmountable, and it's just the most satisfying game that I've ever played. And there's a thing about all these games, like once you play them and if they click for you, it's like you don't want to play any other game. It's like no other game kind of. And I just haven't. I used to really enjoy playing video games, not like competitively or not like things like Call of Duty or FIFA or something like that. It was always too kind of terrible at those games, and I hate the kind of toxicity of like battling people online. It's like it's just not me, you know. And like Dark Souls, Elden Ring, like now it has this amazing multiplayer system where you can be playing the game. It's like essentially it's like a single player game, but there are multiplayer elements to it whereby you can invade somebody else's world while they're playing, right? So they're trying to get through this level, and suddenly you appear, be playing, and then it says you've been invaded by whatever XX Dragon XX, and you think, oh shit. And then there's another player who's like someone in the world, right? He's like red, and he's trying to chase after you and like fuck you up while you're trying to. It's like shit. There are things like, or you can do this thing where if you wanna, you can summon people to help you in parts of the game. You ring a little bell, and it's like you put this sign down on the ground, and then other people who are playing at the same time, if they've kind of made themselves available to help you out as a multiplayer, they'll just come into your world, and you go off and fight this boss or whatever together, and it's like it's got, and you don't talk. It's got all these gestures, like you can bow and wave, and like for instance, if you invade somebody, the etiquette is that you've got to kind of face the person and bow, and if you don't do that, it's really super bad manners to do it, right? It's really frowned upon. So you got to like bow and then start kind of killing each other. Oh my god, I just love it. And
what I love about all of the things you've picked, I was just thinking then, is that they start with there's someone at the end of it who has curated something for them, whether it's a cryptic crossword or it's a band or it's Alan Watts. They've all gone off in their own quest for their own brain to find this thing, and then somehow you found them all.
Wow, man, that's cool. I hadn't thought of that.
But isn't that? But the common link between them is that they've created their own worlds.
Yeah,
you found all these worlds, but in it.
Wow.
Presumably, in the Elden Ring game, you have to die over and over again.
Hey, there you go.
That's it. Exactly. That's it. Right.
But you're clearly a real searcher, aren't you?
So,
and it's very interesting as well that, like you say, you didn't do your homework, you weren't academic, and yet you clearly go to the ends of the earth when you find something you find interesting.
Yeah.
But the very fact you're not just playing this computer game, you can tell me, well, the guy that made this computer game is a Japanese guy and he's learned English, you know.
Yeah. So
you must have been a fucking nightmare to teach. Because you've clearly got a huge brain, but it'll only go where you want it to go.
Yeah, I mean, I never saw school as like, I saw it as a prison, and I didn't see it as what it is intended to do, is like to enrich your knowledge, right? And your, you know, didn't see that at all. And now I would love to kind of, I'd love to go back and study like Latin for a couple of years, right?
Yeah.
Like, the idea of that is like, I don't know, maybe I get pissed off with it again, I don't know, but I just wanted to go back to Elden Ring because, like, to finish the story, like with Dark Souls, it's like once I figured out what it was and how, just kind of became obsessed with it. It was at the time when Twitter was like when it was a kind of like such a pleasant, beautiful, fun place, right? And where, you know, I would do these like one-line jokes that eventually formed the basis of my short-lived stand-up act, right? But I would just tweet Dark Souls in all caps, and like people who knew what I was talking about were like, yeah, man, Dark Souls, right? Because like not everyone knew about it, and I eventually got in touch with the software company and said, look, I hear you're making Dark Souls 2, and I couldn't have been more excited that they were making another one. And I said, look, I'm an actor, I'm good at voices, I'd love to be a voice in the game. And I kind of bullied my way into being, I played a character in the game, and they don't have like big kind of huge cutscenes and like loads and loads of dialogue, blah, 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 and dialogue trees are kind of boring, right? Just these little kind of bits, you know. And so I played this character in Dark Souls 2, but far more thrillingly for me, they asked me to provide the exertion noises for if you played as a male character, right? So all the when you die, which is often in these games, and I play, you know, so I play Elden Ring now, and they've kept my sounds in all the subsequent games, so it's like, and I always forget if when I pick it up and have a little go, it's like, and I die. It's like me, right? It's like a weird way to be immortalized, right? In this, it's one of my proudest achievements. And then just to finish this whole thing, I became friends with Alex Garland, the writer and director, like quite a few years ago, and we were in the same reception area of like. It was at Working Title Films. I was going for an audition. He had some kind of meeting there. Didn't know him, but he came over and introduced himself to me and was like, "You're Peter Serafinowicz, aren't you?" I said, "Yeah, you're Alex Garland. Yeah, I'm a big fan." And like a couple of my friends work with him, and like he's like, "Yeah, thanks." You know, and he was like, "You like video games, don't you?" And I said, "Well, I like one video game." It's Dark Souls, right? And I said, yeah, because I'd like talked about it a bit, you know. And he said, I'm just the biggest Dark Souls fan, and we were talking about like all these, just enthusing about all these different aspects of this wonderful game, and we became friends based on this little interaction, right? He had to go into a meeting, and I left my phone number at reception. I said, could you give this to Alex Garland when he comes out? It was like a sort of date, you know. And so we became friends. Anyway, fast forward to like now, Alex is currently directing Elden Ring, the movie, and I'm in it.
Oh, great.
I'm in it. I just can't believe my luck. I just can't believe that it's like, wow, dude. Wow, man.
Yeah, it's wild, eh?
Yeah.
But you do your own exertion noises for the film.
Oh, yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, I hadn't thought about that. I guess I will, right? I guess I will.
But also as well, it must be, you know, God forbid you you pull a hamstring or something like that. It'd be such a funny moment if there were a fellow, you know, fan of that computer game. They just heard you go, ah! And they're like,
yeah,
it's you.
Yeah. Well, one of the other cast in it, I met him the other day when I went for a costume fitting. And
Again,
he
it
was
must be
like,
funny if you can't quite fit in the trousers.
but that was,
always working.
but he also is like he's a big like fan of these games, and I told him this story, and then I was doing my death noise, and he was like, oh, dude, oh my God. He just, you know, it's so recognizable to him.
Yeah, of
you
course.
Could you give us one of the death noise now, just for the...
Yeah. And it says, you died. It's like so funny, right? So you died.
What a fantastic, wide-ranging chat. I love that. Thank you very much.
Thanks,
for coming
man.
on.
I loved it too. Yeah.